Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us in another one of our Talk With series. Today, it's really a pleasure for me to be able to introduce and have you listen to Gabriella Michaliszyn, which I probably pronounced wrong. We'll just call her Gabriella M. Um, Her topic is exploring your subconscious with ARV. Now, she helps people find solutions to health issues. Through helping people with their health, she has had to address mindset and subconscious understandings and beliefs in order to keep her clients healthy. She has combined information from Gay Hendricks from The Big Leap, Tony Robbins' teaching, and Malcolm's Gladwell from Blink to compile a robust understanding of how the subconscious works and how to correct errant beliefs. In exploring your subconscious with ARV, Gabriella will discuss her research and observations about how the subconscious affects us, often by limiting our success. This limit to our success can show up as displacement in ARV, especially when there is money to be gained. If we are uncomfortable standing out in a crowd, or even if there is a hidden negative belief about ESP abilities. Here is her website URL, Alive Health Solutions. So with that, Gabriella, let me turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you. Let's see. Share. There we go. Can you guys see that?
Yep.
Okay, so we're going to talk about exploring your subconscious and with a focus on ARV. So the first thing that everybody needs to realize is the subconscious often limits our success. The second thing is that there is something that can be done about it. That's the good news. So there are four major categories of subconscious knowledge. The first is direct perceptions, and that's anything that comes in via our five senses that we don't consciously take in. That goes directly to the subconscious, and that is a whole bunch of stuff. Another category is our health. Our subconscious is in charge of keeping our bodies going, keeping our heart beating, keeping all the nutrients getting to where they need to go, fighting pathogens, getting rid of toxins. There's all kinds of health stuff, and our subconscious is in charge of that. Our subconscious has beliefs and understandings about everything. These affect us greatly, even though we don't consciously know all of the beliefs and understandings that we have. And the fourth category is indirect perceptions, and that can be telepathic or spiritual connections. And that is what we actually use for remote viewing, to get information from the universal collective consciousness, or however that's one way to look at it, basically. What we're going to talk about is the beliefs and understandings about everything. Those first three categories are primarily within our own body. So things that we've seen, our health and our beliefs are within us. The indirect perceptions are the ones that we have to reach out for, which we have the ability to do. The purpose of the subconscious is to keep us safe.
Gabriella, can I just stop you here?
Yep.
You're somehow getting almost like an air feedback. You were the only one talking, and I'm hearing something. Maybe you can move your mic a little bit, or
Okay, how's this?
Okay, keep talking.
Okay. So the purpose of the subconscious is to keep us safe.
Okay, yeah, that's better. Good.
Okay. Our subconscious will try to stop us from doing anything it considers unsafe, and it is usually successful. So if there's some goal that we consciously have that our subconscious thinks is unsafe, we will not be able to get there. So some of the methods that the subconscious uses are procrastination. In ARV, it can be displacement, failure at doing what you're trying to do, injury or illness. Sometimes we cause conflicts with each other, and that allows us to stop moving forward. We criticize others or picking a fight. Blame is along those lines. We see a lack of follow-through where our intentions are to get something done, but we don't seem to get there. Most of the time that is our subconscious blocking us. And worry is another hint that your subconscious is trying to block you from something. Because when you worry, you don't get anything done. Now, problem solving is completely different from worry, but worry is thinking about something without trying to come up with a solution. So those are the methods that the subconscious will use to stop us from doing something it considers unsafe. What is safety to the subconscious? According to Tony Robbins, there are 6 basic human needs. This is psychology, not physical needs. Those are certainty, variety, love and connection, contribution, significance, and growth. If any of those basic human needs are threatened, the subconscious will take action. And that action will look again like those symptoms that the subconscious does to stop us. So I'm going to go through some examples of what this looks like. The intention in this example is to finish college and get a good job. The belief of the subconscious may be getting a good job means I will have to move away from my friends and family. So it threatens the love and connection need. So in that situation, the student may start failing tests, may lose their assignments, may forget to turn something in. And that's because the subconscious looks way ahead and tries to block things that will be detrimental to those 6 basic human needs. Another example is the idea that I do not deserve to be happy or successful because I have done something in my past. A lot of times when we start to be successful, we can notice a little bit of an uncomfortableness to that feeling of success. Either it will look like I don't deserve this, or it will look like what's going to happen next? This doesn't feel right. And those feelings of not deserving the success need to be worked through. Some of the ARV related examples are being successful in ARV would cause me to be looked at as crazy. It could cause other people to leave my life if they think I'm crazy, or it can cause me to see myself differently. It can also cause me to have more money. And some of those things, having more money sounds good, but it can threaten some of the basic human needs. It can threaten love and connection. If you have more money, you don't feel like you might lose some of the friends that you have, or the relationship may change. So in order to work through those things, the best way to do it is to interview the subconscious to correct the misperceptions. So we want to see a two-way conversation with the subconscious. Well, if the subconscious isn't conscious, then how do we pull that information in? Well, there's some tools that I've learned about for listening to getting information from the subconscious. Muscle testing, or muscle response testing, applied kinesiology, those are a bunch of different names for the same thing. Getting information from the subconscious. Now that is basically the pendulum method is another way of getting a yes or no answer. So once you are able to get information from your subconscious, I highly recommend learning how to muscle test. Self-muscle testing is an amazing tool for this. But the goal is to get the ability to ask your subconscious a question, a yes or no question, or make a true or false statement and find out the validity of it. So once you are able to get information from your subconscious, you need to know how to talk to your subconscious. And meditation, repeating affirmations, EFT, and tapping are a lot of the methods that we often use to get information to our subconscious. Tapping is a pretty good one as far as speed, and meditation varies along with ability, and so does repeating affirmations. Essentially, you need to get your subconscious to pay attention. Well, that should not be that difficult because your subconscious is technically paying attention to everything. But you need to get its attention a little bit more so it reacts to the information that it receives. And that's why tapping works well, because it creates curiosity in the subconscious, and crossing the center line of the body also brings the right and left brain together, sides of the brain together. So we'll get back to that in a little bit, and what kind of questions are we going to ask the subconscious, and what kind of information are we going to tell it. So next I'm going to talk about what makes up the subconscious. The subconscious, from what I have found, is made up of three parts: the soul, the spirit, and the self. Those three parts each have understandings. We also, in our subconscious, have an identity and a purpose, and we have fears and vows that we have made. So the soul, spirit, and self have understandings, and those understandings can be past, present, or future. Now that may sound a little bit odd to have understandings that are past, present, and future, but the soul has beliefs, and this is a good way to understand all three of them if we look at one. So there are present beliefs which aren't tied to time, but past beliefs are beliefs like, since this happened to me, it means I am this. So we assign a belief based on something that happened in the past. And the future are similar. If this happens, it will mean that. So when we look at the subconscious, the goal is to analyze the understandings that we have, because when there are misunderstandings, then we get blocks to our success and to our goals. There are also internal and external beliefs. Now, the internal ones are the ones we normally think of as beliefs, but external ones are beliefs or understandings that we're connected to. So if you've ever said something like, I want to be like that person, you have connected yourself to them and their beliefs and understandings. So even though you haven't necessarily internalized those beliefs, you are still connected to them. So our goal becomes correcting misperceptions. So in order to do that, we need to first identify the misperceptions. And this goal can be more specific to identifying misperceptions that are blocking me from accomplishing something. So if we choose a goal, I want to have more than 75% success rate in ARV, for example, then what we want to do is identify the understandings that are blocking you from that success. So pick your listening method, whether it's applied kinesiology, muscle testing, dowsing, other intuitive methods, and determine the truth of the following statements. So I deserve to have a higher than 75% success rate. I trust myself enough to have a higher than 75% success rate. And keep going through the list, testing each one for the truth. So find out, it is safe to do this. I desire to do this. I give myself permission to do this. I am worthy of the 75% success rate. I can, or I allow myself to have a 75% success rate. And I feel that it's appropriate to have a 75% success rate. When you are having a hard time getting to a goal, I can almost guarantee that you will find one or more often of these statements that are not true to your subconscious beliefs. So once you find those statements that are not true, the goal is to have the subconscious find the understandings that are causing those statements to be untrue. So step one is to ask your subconscious, what understandings do I have that conflict with that statement? So if the statement that was false to you was, it is safe to have a 75% success rate, then your subconscious will go and analyze that. Don't expect to get an answer, because our listening ability is essentially yes or no right now. But you can ask, did I find understandings that conflict with the statement? Or am I done analyzing those understandings? So once you're done and you've found some understandings that conflict with the statement, you have your subconscious compare those understandings with the truth. Then you ask if that step is done. The next question is, am I willing to release those understandings? Now, if you've found the truth and you've compared it with the understandings that conflict with your goal, most often your subconscious is willing to release those understandings. If you get a no there, you might have to find some more information about the belief and things like that, or give it more time, something like that. But most often, after you've compared the understandings with the truth, you can release them. Sometimes the understandings need to be replaced with other understandings. And so you just ask if they need to be replaced, and does your subconscious know what to replace them with? If you get a no there, then give it some time. See if you may need more time to find the understandings to replace them with. Once you get past that point, the affirmation that you use to talk to your subconscious is, I would like those understandings to be removed. And if you needed to replace the understandings, it would be, I would like those understandings to be removed and replaced with the appropriate understandings. Once you do the pre-work, the affirmation is simple because you have identified the understandings that are problematic and not truthful or not optimal, depending on how you set that up. Methods to get your subconscious to listen. I have found that the easiest way is to place your hand across your forehead right above your eyebrows. It gets your subconscious to pay attention pretty well. You can also use EFT or tapping. You can use meditation, and you can use cross-crawling or other activities that cross the center line of the body. Those will get your subconscious to start paying attention so you can internalize that affirmation and take action. After you do that affirmation, you want to make sure that you have received it. So you check the previously identified misperceptions that you were working on correcting or removing the understandings. So use your listening method to recheck the statements that were false. If you had multiple statements, some of them may be still false, but you typically will find some of them flip to true. You may have to either go through again and do another analysis, or continue on with the next step, which is about fears and vows. So for the fears and vows, ask your subconscious, what fears and vows do I have that conflict with that statement? You may have to do them separately, but I put them together because it's very similar. So what fears do I have that conflict with that statement? And your assignment to your subconscious, you're not expecting a conscious answer. You may get one if you're very intuitive, but your assignment to your subconscious is basically identify the fears that I have that conflict with that statement. Then compare those fears or vows with the truth. And you will need to pause and verify that you're ready for each statement again. But once the comparison is done, you ask, am I willing to release those fears? Or am I willing to release those vows? And once you get to the point where that's a yes, you can go on to the affirmation. And the affirmation for that is, I would like those fears to be removed, or I would like those vows to be removed. Once again, you can use any of the listening methods. To get your subconscious to internalize the affirmation. Then you recheck your statements for truth. And if you did work on vows, you may have to do some work on fears. But your goal for this is to get all 8 of these statements to be true. And your subconscious will stop blocking you if you do that. So, in summary, for exploring your subconscious and making changes, you want to remove the blocks to progress and goals by changing or removing the flawed understandings, vows, and fears that you have. Your subconscious is going to fight you on your goals unless it is confident that the 6 basic human needs are met. So you find and correct the subconscious blocks to success, and the end product is that you feel safer with your success. So I am going to open it up to questions at this time.
Wow, excellent, excellent, and practical. I don't see people putting in enough time to improve, let's say, their hit rate, just for an example. So that's good. Please turn on your mics and let's ask Gabriella a question, or you can put it in the chat box if indeed. Okay, Ronald, you have no sound, so go ahead. You can type in the chat box. Yeah, everybody else is hearing, or they would have said something. Okay, Lila, I see you. Go ahead, ask your question. Mm-hmm.
Well, it's not a question, actually. It's just a request for Gabriella to please put up the very last slide she had. I wasn't finished writing it down. I'm taking notes, so
okay, that's cool.
If she doesn't mind, please. Thank you.
There you go. I got to share too.
It's not up somehow. There you go. Okay, yeah, I'd say why don't you leave that up?
Okay.
Okay, well, I have And please don't be shy, all of you. This is a wonderful time. This is obviously an important subject. You have clearly made some sort of distinction between beliefs and understandings, and you prefer the word understandings. Why don't you explain that to us a little bit?
Sure. I mentioned that there are 3 different parts of the subconscious: the soul, the spirit, and the self. Beliefs are what the soul has. The spirit has philosophies, and the self has perspicacities. So, calling all 3 of them understandings is the more generic term that will encompass all 3 of those things.
Okay. So the soul, what's your view of the difference between the soul and spirit? As you well know, a lot of people would make those synonyms. So what is your distinction?
Well, the soul is it's a little hard to understand, actually. For me, the reason I make the distinctions is because I've used muscle testing to find out information, and I started working on my beliefs, and then I found out, oh, there's more stuff blocking me than just beliefs. So there's a difference between soul, spirit, and self. As far as what they are, I'm not 100% sure, but I think we kind of can see a distinction between beliefs and philosophies.
Mm-hmm. Well, words are hard here, so you're not alone in
Yeah,
this.
It's subconsciousness. It's an unknown subject for the most part, and even soul and spirit are not that well defined because we don't understand it. So just because we don't understand it doesn't mean we don't know that it exists.
Can you say a little bit more about the self? By the self you mean a bigger self, the ego, day-to-day self? What is your view of the self?
Well, I feel like the soul, the spirit, and the self correspond with, and I'm gonna go to religion a little bit here, the way, the truth, and the life. So that's just the way I can internalize it. It's one subconscious with multiple I can't think of the word.
Aspects?
Yeah, aspects, responsibilities, essentially.
Because a lot of people, well, okay, I'm just trying to understand this point of view because it is somewhat different. So
Marty?
Yeah?
Oh, well, this is Lila.
Go ahead, Lila, sure.
Well, okay, so someone once explained to me that the soul dies with the body, but the spirit is everlasting. The spirit is eternal. So the soul comes with the body, and those are the things that you do in that one lifetime. And it affects the spirit in that it leaves an imprint on the spirit so that you carry forward with you with each incarnation parts of you that came along from the soul, from the soul when you were incarnated as so-and-so. And then the self is who is experiencing all these things in the now. That's just how it's been explained to me. So for
The
what?
conscious awareness.
Yeah, yeah. So they are different entities.
Okay, Gabriella, does that sort of fit with your view?
I would say it's close enough. They are different entities, but they're still one in my view. I mean, they work together. They have a little bit of a different flavor to how they look at things.
You know, that's sort of interesting because, as you all know, and please, anybody else want to ask questions? Last thing I want to do is dominate this. I want you to be active participants. But, you know, I always talk about the self-perfect, the conscious now. It's the conscious awareness, which we have. All of that is saved someplace. And then underneath that, I simply use the word subconscious for submerged consciousness, higher self, whatever, everything else that's not in this now moment. And it's interesting that both you and Lila have picked up this idea that the submerged consciousness can be broken up into two pieces, one more with beliefs, others with understandings. See, those are so close.
Well, understandings are beliefs, but
Right.
the three categories are beliefs, philosophies, and perspicacities.
What's perspicacities? Define that one. That's a good word. Perceptions? Perspicacities. What does that mean?
It's still discernment. I think discernment is the best definition of it.
Discernment of truth, understanding, discernment of your beliefs and understanding. Discernment of self. Yeah, I'm trying to get understandings here to see if I can integrate them.
Yeah, but the good news is that to use these tools, you don't need to fully understand them because your subconscious does understand them. The one and only point of saying that there are three parts is so you don't miss any when you're trying to analyze them.
Okay, well, and I agree. The approaches that you talked about, meet the six basic human needs and ask questions about that, is really powerful. There's no questions here, but I want to ask you one more, and then we'll go to them in the chat box. In fact, you can read them as well, I think, if you have your chat box open. If not, I'll read them. But I have one other question.
Okay.
You talked about muscle testing and all that to communicate with your sub. What about the idea of using remote viewing itself? Rather than just yes/no questions, ask your question and do a whole session on it and wait and see what comes up.
Yeah, absolutely. You are not just limited to the yes or no questions, and with this group, there's a lot of intuition that we have access to.
Right.
And you can get more information on what is blocking you and what you need to change and what you need to understand.
Okay.
So definitely using the remote viewing, the intuitive methods, those are better than muscle testing because you can get either words or ideas, or you can get something more than a yes or no. I typically work with people that don't do remote viewing, so we only use muscle testing.
Okay, good. Thank you. Because, yeah, that just seemed like a natural one for our group.
Right.
Okay, so Magic, do you want to turn on your mic and ask your question, or I can just read it? what would be a good affirmation for the subconscious for better ARV accuracy? So that's the question, Gabriella. Do you have like a specific affirmation? You know, how would you word something like that?
So if you were to use just an affirmation without the without the pre-analysis,
Mm-hmm.
I would like the understandings blocking my accuracy to be removed. But I would recommend giving yourself time to identify those understandings before you do that affirmation.
That's really good. In fact, I think a lot of people, you tell them to communicate with their subconscious, and they're not willing to do the work, if you will. The same thing with health and so many other things, you know.
Right. But
it takes a certain amount of work. It took work.
Yeah, it does take some work. It takes some perseverance is what it takes.
Mm-hmm. 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 Which is almost a test of how important it is to you, and that's part of the communication you want to make with the subconscious.
Right.
Okay, here, Deborah, do you want to turn on your mic, Deborah, and ask this? Or do you want me to read it? I think it'd be better if you just put it in your own words.
Okay. Hey there.
Hi.
Thank you very much
Go ahead.
for your presentation. It's great. Yeah, so I'm not exactly sure what I'm asking, except I guess that, you know, it's easy to tell our subconscious, oh, just, you know, do what I want, don't, your fears aren't real. But then sometimes I think, well, maybe they are real, but we're going to get added benefit. And I guess my question is, what would you say if we go back and forth between, well, is this real or not real? And is it me to tell my subconscious what I want it to do, or is it telling me what it wants me to do? And then I get all jumbled up or confused with that. So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, good question. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is a good question. What I do for myself is, instead of trying to tell my subconscious, this is what we need to do, I say, what are the blocks? And are those blocks true? And I get my subconscious to look at the truth outside of itself, myself, to check the understandings that it has, and the fears, and the vows that I've made. And sometimes it takes a little bit of time for that analysis to be made, as far as the understanding that is blocking you is there for a reason. And to unravel the reasons and check the reasons with the truth, that often will bring that block down. Because if you are fulfilling your purpose and you're moving ahead with good intentions, and you want to do something that is good, basically, then a lot of times your subconscious that's been blocking you will find a flaw in its logic, basically, where the understanding doesn't line up with the truth, and it releases that understanding, which releases the block. Now, if you're on a path that you shouldn't be on, then you're not going to be able to convince your subconscious to let go of that fear or that understanding, and you need to change your path. So how do you know you need to change your path? Well, you could ask your subconscious using muscle testing or other intuitive methods, but I would do the analysis first of the understandings that are blocking you and compare them to truth.
Excellent. Okay. Other questions, please? Oh, Patricia, thank you. She said it's like a sharp view, the first impression that comes from your gut, and it's usually right. Interesting, Patricia. And that is what the self can give you. I guess that's okay. Other questions, comments? Let's see what I have here. I found, please, somebody else. Good, Arthur, you took off your mic. Go ahead, shoot.
Okay. I think of my sub as my friend.
Yes.
And has an interest in what I do, and possibly is my, and of course is my guide. But sometimes it talks to me in a different language. Of course, it talks to me in form of pictures. And when I do my remote viewing, I get pictures and such, but I have to learn more how to interpret what these pictures are that I'm getting. And when I do my remote viewing, I expect 100% correctness. I don't want,
Yes.
I'm not shooting for 70%. And that's where the flaw is in this reasoning, that you want only 70% because you're leaving 30% for error, and you're leaving your subconscious to roam free and be playful with you. You don't want that, do you?
No, you don't. And 75%, it depends on where you are. And you can, a lot of times it's hard to get your subconscious to fully release you to 100% when you haven't done any work. So that's why I said 75%, just so you get the blocks to that point released. And it's a more reasonable amount of things to analyze at one time. And once you get those blocks removed, you move up. You do the next set of blocks, maybe 80, maybe 85%, whatever your next goal is. You don't stop at 75, but you may. I would start at 75 if you haven't done this before.
Well, yes, I still believe that 100% is what my subconscious wants to get, and it is my conscious mind that gets in the way of not allowing the sub to come through and do that.
When you don't get that 100%, do you get a pass or do you get a miss?
I usually try to get one or the other. I accept misses, but not very, very well.
Right.
I get really I get agitated with myself when I do get a miss. But then when I realize what things are, this is the point about going back and analyzing what you did and did wrong, whatever it is, to get that miss. Once you get to understand what you understand your subconscious more when you do that, I believe. To analyze, analyze afterwards and realize that this is what your subconscious was saying, because the ideas that is given to you by the subconscious is is completely sometimes different from what you grasp and you get. You're say for example, when you look at a ball, you think of it maybe as an orange instead of the ball, or vice versa. We tend to put nouns onto things that should be adjectives and descriptive terms.
Okay. Arthur, let me just add a comment here, and that is there is an uncertainty principle. I think 100% to have that as a near-term goal, even as a long-term goal, doesn't allow that there are bigger things going on, and they might make sense with a bigger understanding, such that 100% is asking perhaps too much. Now, I'm giving you my personal belief system. I'm not even suggesting that you change yours, because you have to do that. But if you were to at least adopt 75% as part of the path to 100%, I think that would be a stronger strategy. But that's my opinion.
Yeah, and I would say to that, 100% in practice probably will not happen, because there's a lot more going on than what's in our direct control. But when we're dealing with our subconscious and we're asking if there's anything blocking us in our subconscious, we want to make sure that there is nothing blocking us. We are not blocking ourselves from getting 100%.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. Okay.
Okay. Can I jump in one more?
Yeah.
When we're talking about truth, about getting truth to our truth to the subconscious also has to give the subconscious their truth back to us and feed it back. We're talking about truth.
I believe truth is external to us. That's why I'm asking the subconscious to look at the truth that is true, the external truth. You can, if you don't share that belief, you can say optimal understandings. You want to have the optimal understandings instead of looking at truth. But I believe there is an external truth that you can connect to check your understandings against.
Okay, so the self then is both the subconscious and the conscious combined. Is that your interpretation?
No, the self is still unconscious, subconscious, in my interpretation of that.
Then what is the conscious then? Where does that reside?
That's a separate piece of us.
So then there are four. Then there's the soul, the spirit, the self, and the call it the being. Is that it?
I think the soul, the spirit, and the self are the three parts of us, and then there is a certain amount of each of those that is conscious, that we consciously are aware of. So awareness is different than these three parts of us.
What about if you were to say all three of them experience the now conscious moment? Interpret them in different ways, in your model, but the now conscious moment is rather special, right? It's the only thing we truly know for sure about consciousness is this now moment, but how that gets interpreted, how that interacts with the understandings and beliefs is different with the three parts, as you would put it?
I would have to think about that a little bit more. I think that whether or not we're aware of parts of, the parts that we're aware of, parts of these three parts of us that we're aware of is our consciousness, because by definition we're aware of it.
And they come up in conscious moments, but
Yeah.
the conscious moment is so central to this. I think we all agree because it's just so special.
Yeah, we can remember. Stuff can come in and out of our consciousness because when we forget it, it goes back, and we keep it as something subconscious.
Right.
So I think that's just a question of whether we're aware of it or not.
Okay. Thank you, Arthur.
Thank you.
Here's
Yeah.
Mike Myers. Why don't you turn on your mic and go ahead and ask your question.
How's that? Is it on?
Yep, we hear you fine.
Excellent. Okay. So the question was, during lots of gateway and hypnosis studies, left brain is sometimes a blocker with its rational thinking as to what reaches the right side and how you view things. If we bypass that left side through hypnosis in different directions, different things, by different states, oftentimes suggestions can reach right into the right side to go directly into that. So, my question was, through some of the things, your findings, Gabrielle, what is one of the more direct applications that you feel is very important, and not necessarily just for remote viewing, but let's say somebody has something through childhood, they've been told a certain thing or a certain set of things that they can't do this, they can't do this. They know they can, but somewhere in that subliminal mind, there is a firm belief, either on the left side or wherever it is, that they can't do it because of this. How do we get past that and change those blocks until they remove them through the way that you look at it or the way that you do it?
So what I would do in those situations is start with muscle testing to understand the problem as much as possible.
Okay.
I would look at which of the basic human needs were being threatened. Let's say it's something that you want to do but can't. Is that what you're talking about?
Something there's no reason that one can't do. Someone should be able to do that. Maybe holding back is this pre-programmed psychological, thing from childhood of you can't do this from every angle coming at you.
Right. Yeah. So I would look at the these questions here.
Okay, good. And I missed a lot of this. The 6. If you don't mind elaborating on those again, I hope you wouldn't mind.
Oh, sure.
Okay. On the needs, etc.
So the 6.
And this will be recorded too, so you will be able to get the whole thing shortly.
Okay. Well, don't waste a lot of time with it from me. I'll go back.
Sure, that's fine.
Yeah.
So the 6 basic human needs are on this slide. You can see it, right?
Yes.
Okay. So when these are threatened, it'll cause us to stop. It'll cause our subconscious to stop us from doing things.
Okay.
So
great.
taking a look at which ones of those and going through these statements here will give you a lot of information as far as where the problem is. Whether it's they feel that it's not safe, their subconscious feels it's not safe, or they're not worthy, or they don't trust themselves to do it. So once you get the information, then you can find the understandings that need to be removed. So the beliefs or philosophies or whatever it is, whatever kinds of understandings. And getting the subconscious to analyze the understandings that are blocking that goal is the key. So locate the understandings that are blocking it, and then after that, check if those understandings line up with truth. if they're optimal or truthful understandings. And if they're not, the subconscious will have no problem getting rid of them with the affirmation that I have. Let's see, which slide is that? So this is the affirmation that once you identify the understandings, then you can just ask them to be removed.
Okay.
Okay. Good summary. I have a comment for you, Mike.
Yes.
You mentioned hypnosis.
Yes.
I have tried to get people to couple up in an ARV sense, and have hypnosis, someone who can do hypnosis, hypnotize a remote viewer and do just what you said.
Yeah.
And yet no one is taking it enough to where we can get good statistics. Do you do hypnosis?
I don't. I know somebody who does it. Maybe I could ask her.
Why don't you ask her, and you two, have her hypnotize you, and then you do your remote viewing session and do enough of them so we can get some statistics, and then let us all know how it works. I mean, I've been trying to get somebody to do this for years, and somehow it never quite comes together because it seems like such a good idea.
It actually does seem like a very good idea.
Yeah. Why don't you take that on, and please keep me informed on how it's going.
I will. I'll contact her. That'll be great.
Okay.
Thank you for the suggestion.
Excellent.
Thank you, Gabrielle.
Yeah, sure, no problem.
Okay. Bye, Deborah. Lila, doing the work is the crucial issue in removing subconscious blocks. I have found only 2 people in my life who are willing to do the internal work to remove subconscious blocks. I'd love to be in touch with those who are currently doing this inner work, as I do it on a daily basis, and would like to support. My practice is a non-dual thinking, accepting everything that is, interested in connecting. So if anybody wants to, that's a wonderful idea to set up groups of people who are working on this together. I think that really would be very supportive. Lila, why don't you put your email address in the chat box, and then hopefully people will contact you. There you go. In fact, I think that's such a good idea, Lila. You might also put that in the general app discussion group. That one of the things that came out of this talk because not everybody will hear this or see the recording, but the idea is certainly a good one. People who are actually willing to put in the time and energy to work this, let's be in touch with each other. Thank you, Lila.
Thank you, Marty. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. No, that's really a good idea. Okay. Any other questions, comments?
I have one.
Sure, go ahead.
Another. Okay. What about dreams and that sort of thing? Now, can we? This is the subconscious talking to you sometimes, is it, or is it just garbage, or how can we filter out what is good there and what isn't?
Well, I do think often dreams are our subconscious talking to us. And I love, my first thing is using muscle testing. Is this dream significant? Yes or no? And then after that, there's a lot of symbolism in dreams. If you're falling, if you're being separated from people, there's a lot of fears that you can see through the dreams that we have. And if you have a lot of dreams, definitely let them guide you through your journey of checking on what is going on in your life. If they're dangerous dreams, they may be hinting at some of the 6 basic human needs wanting attention, whether it's contribution or love and connection or variety or a need for certainty. So you can use that dream as a jumping off point to take a look at what the subconscious is talking to you, trying to tell you.
And Gabriella, would you support maybe going to bed? You know how you're supposed to act, you suggest asking your subconscious questions about the blocks. How about if you were to do that before you went to bed with the expectation of getting a relevant dream to that specific question?
You certainly could do that, you know, and have a notebook by your bed so you can write it down as in detail as when you first wake up.
Yep. You see, that fits perfectly with your response that you could use remote viewing for those of us in this community, because as you well know, Nancy Smith, Dale Graff have groups that do dream remote viewing, dream ARVing. So you can ask your sub questions before you go to bed at night, because I agree with both of you. The subconscious is there, and it's a good place where a dream is giving you information clearly from the subconscious. So that's good.
Yeah, and it's interesting. One of my acquaintances had included me in a weird dream that they had. And as we were analyzing it, we figured out that I was in the dream, so he would come to me for help. So I could help him figure out the dream.
And I suspect you did.
Yeah.
Because that whole loop, you know, was what was going on with the subconscious connections with us. That's great. That's great.
Well, I also firmly know that the subconscious your dreams can predict the future also. I have absolutely knowledge of that as truth. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. This dream work that Dale Graff's been doing for many, many years proves that actually in a scientific way. But yes, Arthur, but that also means use your dreams to ask questions of your sub.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah. See what the blocks are. I don't know if, Okay. I mean, Gabriella has given us such good suggestions here in terms of working this. Okay, other questions, comments? Yep, doing work, right. Interesting. Patricia, there's been a lot of the best. Well, Gabrielle, I don't know if you read this, but Patricia says this has been one of the best talks so far. I'm going to start working on myself. And I know people just most often are not willing to do it. Anyway, wonderful.
Yeah, it's hard when you don't know how. You know, there's very little specific instructions as far as doing work on your subconscious, and a lot of it is so theoretical, and you're supposed to sit and meditate for half an hour, and you're supposed to do this, and there's so much stuff out there that, you know, may or may not be helpful, but I find that it's a lot simpler than it's made out to be.
I agree with you, because the very fact that you're taking time, which is a time of energy, doing the work itself is what's most important, and there are lots of different ways to do it. And you've given some nice specific suggestions, which I think are important at the level of what questions you ask. But whether you use muscle testing or tapping or remote viewing is less important than paying attention to doing the work. So that's great. Working on the self is the best gift we can give to each other. And that was Lila's comment. Great talk, Gabriella. Wow, new insights. Gabriella, thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Did you put that on there? Christ does, a prophet of man?
I don't know where that came from.
Okay.
It came from Jim.
Okay, one of the chats. I was trying to get the chat on my screen, and I guess I got some.
Comes here with us, or is I don't even know how you did that.
I
But, okay.
I did it.
Who's Who's talking?
Jim.
Okay, Jim.
Okay.
It's Jim, the newbie.
Okay.
I just thought I'd throw that in. I'm not trying to preach.
Yeah.
No, but comment on it. So Christ said, what
Well,
does
Christ said, well, our soul must be able to be lost through our behavior.
Okay.
I'm reincarnation is fine. I'm of the belief, not of that belief, but whether you come from a pre-earth existence with God or whether you come from another lifetime, apparently you're carrying your soul, and the soul is it comes with us, and our experiences add up to our values and beliefs, which I think is part of the subconscious.
Mm-hmm.
And the self is what we become because of those beliefs. I don't know how to explain it.
No, all of this is so hard to use in words, and
Yeah.
you've given us an insight into your kind of belief system, and that's great.
Well, that's a Christian point of view, I guess. But
Well,
I thought that was interesting. I thought that came to my mind when we were talking about what the soul was.
okay.
Right.
Okay, how did you get this on the screen? Did you do a share?
I don't know how to, Marty, I don't know computers. I'm
I know you
old
managed.
school. And I pushed some buttons around trying to figure out how to get text or something, and I pushed text, and
Okay, good enough.
and
Okay,
I got there.
any other comments? Or?
That could use some fixing, but that's a basic idea that I have.
Yeah, well, hey, use it. And you said you're a newbie, so get into the ARV and see how well you do.
I'm the dowser. I'm the pendulum guy. I wanted to say, I just did 7 wins in a row in NFL football using my dowsing system. I get to this level. I've got to 10 before, but I get to this 7 level, and it seems to be my drop-off level.
Okay.
So this week is I've got 7 in a row. This week will be 8. I do 2 games a week. And partly the reason I haven't got into your ARV yet so much is because my own system has been working so well. It takes a little bit, considerable amount of preparation before I actually do the dowsing. Dowsing is a medium. ARV is a medium. Muscle testing is a medium. There are lots of mediums to intuition. Dowsing is just one way. I've used for about 7 years. I've used a pendulum every other day.
Well, if you
develop a rapport with it.
The nice part about doing it with ARV is we would gather statistics on you, which would help spread the word. I mean, if you can get 7 or 8 in a row, miss one, get another 7, 8 in a row, you do that consistently, we'll make you a precog pro. We're starting to find you get in.
I've done it. I did 6 in baseball this year.
Yes,
but I just want to say to Gabriella, I appreciate the information because I seem to have some kind of blockage at this point.
Yeah.
Now, I have got to 10.
Yep.
But that was without money. Now I'm using money. Yay. I'm using money with everything because it changes the whole.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. We all have.
It changes the whole thing. Changes how your decisions, which ones you pass on, which ones you don't. Right. Money's an energy that adds a different level to these mediums, whether you're a dowser or a remote viewer or whatever.
Yeah, there's a lot in our subconscious about money, beliefs and understandings and all kinds of things. So do this before you do the next one, before you douse the next one. See how you do.
Okay, I appreciate the information. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Right. And I'd love you to get involved in ARV, Jim.
I will, Marty. I got to get me a computer. All I got's a tablet. I'm working on getting me a computer so I can do the photos and do your whole thing. But right now I'm doing really well with my program.
Right.
I've been doing it for 7 years.
Okay, I understand.
I'll get back with you.
Most tablets actually will show the pictures and everything, but maybe yours will. Anyway,
Well, maybe it does. But I'm busy with my system right at the current moment.
I understand, and good luck with that. You know,
Thank you.
for finding it. Period. Okay, and do keep stats somehow. Hopefully, on a.
I keep track. I have all my paperwork.
Okay, very good. Okay, other questions, comments? I just started listening to my pre-sleep subconscious hypnotherapy from recording them. Okay, very good. Very good, Magic. Hey, Gabriella, this was really terrific. Do you have any closing comments you'd like to make? And then we'll end this.
I just would encourage people to take a few minutes and do this. You know, each step you can do quickly and then give your subconscious time to analyze and then do the next step.
Okay, that's wonderful. Thank you very much. And to all of you, hey, keep working, keep precogging, and that's it. We'll stay in touch.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, now I have to figure out how to end this. I will stop the recording.